Welcome to Unapologetically You, an authentic journey to healing. This is the podcast that dives deep into the raw, real, and transformative process of embracing your true self. Join Jenny and Ashley as they share stories, insights, and practical wisdom, plus more than a few laughs and tears from their own lives so you can heal, grow, and live unapologetically. Whether you're on your own healing journey or simply seeking inspiration, this space is all about you embracing authenticity without fear or shame. It's time to make a move from a relationship to a relationship. Now, here are your hosts, Jenny and Ashley, who are proud to take this worthy journey right alongside you and are truly happy you're here.
Here we are back with another episode of Unapologetically You. Today we're going to be talking about divorce and breakups and sometimes how we feel stuck and scared to get out of these relationships. We do have a special guest today, Oliviana. I am going to let Liv introduce herself.
Thank you so much. First of all, Ashley and Jenny for being here. I'm Oliviana Solares. You can call me Liv or Olivia. I am the president and founder of Oliviana Integrative Nutrition and Wellness and the creator of the Thrive 365 lifestyle and the author of Soul Sanctuary, which is eating, thinking, breathing, and feeling a Thrive 365 lifestyle. And yeah, I'm just really delighted to be here and share our stories.
So this is a treat to have you on.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, we love having fun guests that have, and you have a lot going on. You do all kinds of stuff, so I'm excited.
So Liv,
divorce.
Think of divorce as such a dirty word. It's not always. I will tell you, when I had gotten divorced, I was heartbroken. I was scared. But truly looking back, I would not have became the person I am today had it not have been for that divorce. I believe God puts people in our lives for reasons, for seasons. And to me, I think my ex-husband and I were meant to be together to have our kids. We did learn a lot from one another, and it was time to just move on.
Yeah.
So there's been a couple times.
Yeah.
When you finally left, what was your feeling?
Yeah. When I left, it was the nail in the coffin for me was coming from a place of codependence. I fully own I take responsibility, for myself fully. The nail in the coffin for me was when we were talking with our co-parenting therapist. And at the invitation of my own therapist at the time, I was invited to share what I needed. And the response that I received when I opened up my heart, vulnerably shared, this is what I need to feel supported. The response that I received was unsettling. And for the first time, I felt sane because it was witnessed by another person. And that was the moment where
The response you received from your now ex-husband.
my co-parent.
Oh, okay.
So you no longer had to thinking in your head. There wasn't a doubt anymore of like, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm seeing this. Now somebody else kind of witnessed. So it kind
It
of
was the witnessing.
gave you like a
Yes.
verification of, okay.
Yes.
I'm not crazy.
Being witnessed. And that's a huge part of the work that I do right now. There's even a passage I wrote about it in the book about being witnessed. Because there was so much probably, I don't know, trauma of my childhood or whatever that led to fear and judgment, shame, overcompensating, overworking, hustling for my self-worth. I was the problem. And to be witnessed by someone else, that's all I need. That's all I needed.
Just that permission.
Mm-hmm.
And I do think anybody that's deciding to end a marriage or a very long relationship, it is important to at least try therapy with the person you're with because I agree with you. I feel like for me, we had tried therapy as well. And that was also my wake up when the therapist said, well, I don't really see this coming back together.
Right.
That's when I thought to myself, kind of like Ashley had said, like that was what I needed to hear to say, okay, I'm not wrong. Like I am feeling,
Yeah.
I felt it, but I needed somebody to
Needed a
tell me that.
confirmation from somebody else to say, okay.
And especially it was
I'm
a
also-
professional.
yeah.
So I was like, okay, like my feelings aren't wrong. I really am feeling this is not coming back together.
Yeah.
Now, let's go back to you saying the first time, because I
Yeah.
think a lot of people, and I've never been married because I never wanted to be. I didn't ever want to be divorced. Like I didn't want to have to go through that. But I think sometimes, and just my viewpoint on it is, it's scary to like you get that initial, okay, this isn't working, I need to leave, but it's too scary kind of that first time, right? You take the steps, then you're like, I don't know if I tell us about like how that process went. Why? Because I think a lot of women get stuck in it of
Or go back.
or go back. So what was it that made you first make the decision to, okay, I want to do this, but then go back and then like, no, I need to keep going on this route.
Yeah, so you segued really well from Jenny's
thanks.
story, really nice, into my story, because let me just be really frank and transparent that I basically spent a lifetime suppressing my intuition and subconscious, okay, leading up to that point. And again, I grew up in codependence and enmeshment, and so that's not a place where you're invited to hear your intuition. That's not a place where you receive a lot of validation and witnessing, okay? And so again, I take full responsibility, and you can only suppress your subconscious for so long before it like throws
Screams
up
at
all
you.
over you. And so there was a point where I felt in my external environment, I was treated really kindly by someone, and they were just really complimentary of my skills and my background, and they were so like vulnerable, talking about like the first time I ever met them that they had been through a divorce and that they went to see a therapist, and I'll be fully transparent, it was a person of the opposite gender.
That was gonna be my next
and
question.
I was just
Usually,
I was like, what the like I've never
like
seen
men
this
can be
before.
like this.
Yeah. What is this? And I went to my co-parent because I was like, I don't know what's happening here. But I went to him and said, I feel we need to go to marital counseling.
Because you felt something you hadn't felt before, and you're like,
it was like, so I don't know what happened that I created that in my external environments, but then the response that I received was, I'm not going for your problems. And that's when I was like, that's it.
I'm done.
I'm done. And so that was
my
the
goodness.
first. Yeah. I was like, I am done. That is just when it escalated for me, and I
Because
left.
that meant what to you? When he said, I am not, because I feel like that is a lot of times
common
happen.
thing.
So when he said that, and you're like, I'm done. What did those words mean to you when he said that?
When that was said to me, it felt so painful, and I felt so full of like rage and anger, because it was, and again, I take full responsibility, because up until that point in the relationship, I had taken responsibility for someone else's emotions, and I felt like I was the broken one, and I was always responsible for cleaning everything up. I mean, as a people-pleasing, perfectionistic performer, which again, I don't recommend to anybody, hustling for my self-worth. And that was the first minute that I felt like, how is this my problem when I'm asking us to do this together? And that was it. You know, I think my intuition was like, you are in a relationship that is not about that is not joint. You are in this alone. And I was like, I'm done.
Did you feel alone?
I felt alone. I felt hurt. I felt rage. I felt like every emotion that I probably really spent a lot of time suppressing, because I was too busy, trying to be responsible for someone else's emotions.
And when women have young children, it is hard to really take that time for self-care and to take that time to really kind of hear your own thoughts and your own needs.
Because you're busy taking care
because
of
you are so busy taking care of little ones
Yeah.
that sometimes we're not as observant of what we really need and are feeling.
And do you think then on the opposite side of that too, that men get so wrapped up of being like, hey, I got to be the provider and I got to worry about work and I got to worry about all of this stuff that they too aren't? Because I'm certain he probably felt some of the things you were feeling too, but also wasn't going to address them and bring it to the table. Because I usually think if one person's feeling it, the other one kind of is in
On
a
some
way.
level.
On some level too.
Me too.
And you're both being like, we'll just keep doing what we're doing. We'll just keep seeing how
Because
well
it's scary to look at the other.
Yeah. Well, so there's a few things. I feel that just like you said, Jenny, everyone in our environment, including our intimate partnerships, acquaintances, every relationship is a mirror in some way of us. And so I'm going to keep this to me and the mirror that was being reflected back to me. I had started therapy because I had anxiety that was so bad that like I would get pain in my chest and my hands and my feet. I didn't know it was anxiety because I wasn't like emotionally literate, let's say. Even though I spent all this time working in healthcare, and as an empath, I could really feel other people's emotions, but my own emotions, like, didn't have a relationship with those. And I feel that in therapy, I began to understand, my emotions and developed a relationship with them. And there is a point where in our lives, some people are meant to be teachers, some people are meant to be, in partnership, whatever. But I feel that we reached a point in our lives where our paths diverged as far as, how we were cultivating a relationship with our emotions.
How does one cultivate a relationship with their emotions? So somebody right now that is feeling stuck or cut off from their feelings, what would be your best advice of how to really connect and cultivate, like get in touch with their emotions?
I have goosebumps up and down my body. And what I'll say from an intuition perspective is listen to your body. Listen. Our bodies, these body temples are some of the most intelligent pieces of wisdom that we inhabit, for our entire lives. And they don't lie to us. And so if you feel something in your body, listen. It's the wisdom of our body is there to guide us. And so, I clearly wasn't listening for a long time to the point of like half of my face going numb.
Do you feel that you weren't listening because you were scared? So your body was actually doing physical symptoms then as well.
Yeah.
Do you feel that you weren't listening because you were scared of the unknown, scared of being alone, didn't want to break up your family? What for you do you think it was?
I'll be really honest that my environments, including healthcare, and my upbringing up until that point did not model a place where I was invited to hear and listen to the wisdom of my body and trust it and to really lean in as to what is the invitation I'm receiving here.
So for me, because I think this is also for a lot of people, it was very hard because I came from such a traditional family. My parents were together, for many, many years. And so I felt more like ashamed to get divorced. Once I actually went through with the divorce, then there was that freeing feeling, but it took a while for me to let go of what is a traditional family. But for me, because I came from such a traditional upbringing, it was hard to let go of that. Like, wow, now I'm not going to have that traditional family. Again, that was just a story I was telling myself. But that's what I think kept me stuck longer than it would have. You have children, Ashley, so how about you with breakups?
You and Liv speak so elegantly. And I'm like, shit, guys, for the rest of us.
So for you have
the rest
kids.
of us, it comes down to one thing that
what was it for you?
envelops what you're saying, and you're saying the external factors. It's fear. It's fear of the unknown of what happens, whether it's fear of feeling shameful. It's a fearful feeling of what happens next. How do I do this? Can I do this? Will
Judgment.
I do this?
How are people going to look
Yeah.
at me now?
Yeah. Me, like when I said I didn't want to get married because I didn't want to get divorced, it wasn't because I was like, I don't want to be a divorcee. It was more like I was so fearful of making a mistake. A lot of people in my family were divorced. And then I saw a lot of my friends getting divorced. But then I saw a lot of people that were really unhappy in their relationships that weren't leaving. And I'm like, I want the freedom to exit when I want to exit. Liv brought receipts.
I'm a Virgo, so I have a book.
Yes.
This is the inner worker
Ooh.
relationships. And
Oh.
I
Yeah, share.
highly, Matt and Ash, the yoga couple, wrote this. It's called, the subtitle is An Invitation to Heal Your Inner Child and Create a Conscious Relationship Together.
Beautiful cover.
Yeah, I was just looking at this is the themes of consciousness, and it goes through, like, I felt all of these.
Okay,
I
let's
felt-
talk about
yeah.
it.
Yeah, rejection,
Mhm.
judgment, overwhelm, loss, distrust, inadequacy, violation, insecurity, all of that.
Is this, are they talking, these are what people feel after a breakup or during a
This
bad
is-
relationship? Or
This is
What-
actually in this themes of consciousness, that we're looking at. This can be a place where we feel suffering. We feel stuck in this attack and defend karmic couple type place, and our hearts, might be closed. And, Brene Brown has really great work where she talks
love her.
about,
Mhm.
she talks about de-armoring our hearts. And that's that's where we move up in these themes of consciousness, as we sit with the emotions that accompany these, themes. Those emotions are there to teach us, right?
Yeah.
And I felt all of this. Like, divorce was my greatest fear.
Mm-hmm.
I would say that it wasn't modeled to me that you get a divorce. I mean, we came from a very religious upbringing, and no matter how unhappy people were together, it was like, you're going to stay in this relationship. And then I also had religious trauma, because I felt like you said in sickness and in health, until death do you part. And like, I am a loyal, loyalty is important, to me.
Did
and
you
like,
feel guilt?
Oh, absolutely. I felt guilt. I felt shame, judgment. I felt like I was destroying. I mean, like, here, as a healthcare professional, I was like, my children are going to have an adverse childhood event because I went through a divorce. And
That was one of the first things that I had felt like, wow, this could really mess my kids up.
Never
If-
felt that, and I don't know if it's because, again, I come from different. That you, like you said, that wasn't modeled to me. That wasn't tradition. It's what I knew.
Right.
So for me, not being with, I love how you call it the co-parent. I'm going to ask you about that too. Not being with the
She's very
co-parent.
detached.
Yeah. Like I was like, I just thought, okay, my children are resilient, and it's better to get them out of this bad situation and move them on to something better than let them sit in it and see how dysfunctional
Well,
it
and
is.
I realized over time that I did what was really best for my children.
Mhm.
But at the time,
It was
I
hard.
thought the same thing. Like, wow, are they going to have issues from this? It's a fair, it's a fair assessment when you come from backgrounds of ours, because
Yeah.
we didn't have anything to go off of,
Yeah.
because that was not modeled to us.
it wasn't.
Yep.
And so kind of to bring both of these sides together. So I said that to my therapist when I was like having all my dragging myself through the shame and judgment and contempt and guilt and just all of it. And she just looked at me and she said, what kind of an adverse childhood event do you feel it is to stay in a relationship that is not, of mutual devotion? I mean, what do you
Yeah.
think that is
Yeah.
modeling? She's like, that's modeling ancestral and generational trauma to your children. And
Yeah.
then-
Yeah.
and that's the cycle repeating.
Yep.
So
Our
Want
intuition
to-
doesn't
Right,
lie.
Yeah.
well, we're scared.
Yeah.
The fear of the unknown, the fear of, again, our
Did I make a
kids, what's gonna happen.
mistake? Am I
Did I
gonna
make a
regret? I'm
mistake?
always a
Did
big
you
fear
have
of
regret?
the what if.
Okay,
Yeah.
so
did
you had said you
Yeah.
had went back.
Mhm.
What made you completely end it for good? And then did you have any regrets?
The complete nail in the coffin was that co-parenting session where, at the invitation of my therapist, I said, this is what I need for this to work, for us to repair this. And the response I received that was witnessed by somebody else was was all that I needed. That's
And
what
that was, I
needed.
can't give you that.
It was that
Yeah.
and more.
Yeah.
It was that and more. And that's all it took. And what was the other question? Sorry.
So
Did
the
you have
other,
regret?
Did you ever?
Not after that point in time. I would say after that point in time, that's where I had the invitation to sit with shame, judgment, not, and I had already been sitting with those things, but I really got to cultivate a relationship with those challenging emotions. And that, I think, is another thing that doesn't get modeled a lot to us. Fear's there to teach us.
People run
Fear's
from
bad.
that fear, that panic
If you
inside.
are fearful of it, it must be bad. So stay away from it. And
Yeah.
instead, I think it teaches us, no, I need you to head into it.
Yeah.
Not like
Yes.
fear.
Our body's way of telling us.
Liv, wouldn't you tell people, or what would you tell someone that is feeling that sense of, they're in that moment of their feelings and they're feeling a sense of regret, or maybe I should go back? Because you did the go back. Do you think that's, would you tell them, well, go back and figure it out, or say, well, that's just fear talking?
Great question.
Keep moving forward. How would you, because I'm sure people are listening right now
Mhm.
being like, I don't know what to do, and I want to
They're
go
stuck.
back, and yeah.
Mhm. So I feel that this is a quote I always shared with every client. To this day, I still share it. Fear and curiosity rarely coexist.
Ooh, explain that.
Yeah. So when we feel fear, like paralyzing us, okay, that is the invitation or opportunity to get curious.
Okay.
Because I especially I had a lot of clients with like eating disorders, for example, and there's like terror, to like eating food. I mean, terror. And so we really had to cultivate a relationship with fear. And the way that really seems to help was curiosity, because curiosity is a place where neuroplasticity is at its, maybe the neuroplasticity of our brain is at its, I don't know, ideal, you could say. And that's where we can really, I could get into a lot of science, but when we really tune into that place of curiosity or wonder, for example, then that's really where our intuition can.
You allow it to.
Yes.
I
Okay.
love that.
Allow
Curiosity.
So you're saying, I thought you were going to
Ooh.
say they don't and shouldn't coexist, but you're saying if fear is there,
Get curious.
match it with curiosity
Yeah.
to kind of push past.
Do you mean get
the-
curious about the fear? In a way, like, what's the fear trying to teach you?
Yeah, because I think
What-
this will help a lot of people to, when they're
Yes.
in that space, to be like, wait and stop. Like, when you say get curious about what you're afraid of, or curious of what it's trying to teach you, or what should somebody be?
Yeah, I feel like the curiosity could be, okay, fear, I see you. I see you. I feel paralyzed by you. What are you, I know you mean no harm. What are you here to teach me? What are you here to show me? How are you here to guide me? And that can really help that stuck emotion to move through us.
And let your intuition then speak.
boom.
Love that. I need to do that. I
love
feel
that.
like that's
I
yeah.
love that.
Yeah.
That's a powerful
Yeah.
lesson. for
Because I know
people.
for me, as soon as like it's fear, I'm like, whoop.
But I
I'm
kind
outta
of
here.
know
I'm
fear
shutting
now.
down
Can
from
you
it.
always- Like, I can tell now when it's my fear talking. It took me a long time.
What's that sound like?
So for me, when it's fear, I feel constricted. I feel like tightness in my throat. I feel my body feels more tense. When it's my instincts talking, I feel more relaxed. I feel almost like light. Everybody has different experiences, but for me, when it's my instinct and my soul speaking, it's like I feel light, I feel open, my heart feels almost like an expansion. But when I'm feeling fearful, it's like I literally feel that constriction in my body. Again, it took me a long time to be able to be as in touch with my body as I am to know that now.
Yeah, I'm not there yet.
And
I
don't
fear.
get-
I'm like, who are you?
Pay to kind of just
Can't
sit
do
there
it
and be
yet.
like, okay, what is this? What is
Yeah.
coming up for me?
Well,
is it fear?
I have the
Is
hard
it intuition?
time sitting there doing that. For me, fear takes hold and just runs. I can't rein it back in. I like pray about it, but I know wholeheartedly when I start to get, it's gonna run, and I'm gonna let it run itself until I guess, too exhausted to think about it. I still do that to
Okay.
myself. I still put myself in that spot of
Can I share?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I didn't even know that I was in a fear loop because it has all kinds
That's a
of ways
good
it
word,
can show
fear
up.
loop.
And one of my fear loops that still showed up, and it's taken me a lot of introspection and like sitting with my body, to meditation stuff, yoga, to come to that, therapy, so many things. But one of the ways that I noticed a pattern was, number one, my body was constricted, or my mind felt constricted, right? Like it didn't feel like a growth mindset and open-hearted, like we were talking about in the themes of consciousness. It was like closed, constricted, tense, pain, distress. That is probably that is probably a very strong indicator that we're choosing, fear or some other painful emotion, to guide us. And it's one thing to make a home for an emotion, and something very different to let it make a home of you.
Ooh, I like that.
Let's say that again. Let's sit on that for a minute.
Okay, it's one thing to make a home for an emotion, and it's something entirely different to let it make a home of you or us.
Like attached to it.
Yeah.
That's how, when
Yeah.
you're saying this, that's what I'm getting from
Yeah. So what I noticed, this was a few days ago, and I shared it with my social media audience, but I was in this loop of, I tend to like overthink things, like
Well, you're an analytical person. You could tell.
Very
Your brain is,
I am
which
very-
works for you in
I'm a
so
Virgo.
many ways.
Have you noticed?
Her brain never stops.
And it's one thing to like be analytical in like a curious, gross set mind kind of way, and it's another to be like performative problem solving. Like, what's my plan B? Like from a place of anxiety, for example.
Yep.
And so what I did was I was like, I feel the tension here. I'm gonna go sit with this, and I'm gonna just sit and breathe and ask, where am I feeling this in my body? Where am I feeling this? And for me, as I sat with it, I was feeling it between my heart and my throat, and it was almost like constricting.
Yeah.
But I didn't feel that. I couldn't identify where it was in my body until I really took the time and the intention and the devotion to sit and just ask where it was. And then I asked, what do you need? What are you trying to tell me?
Oh, wow.
Right.
I love
Again, that
that.
curiosity.
Yeah.
And what it said, like I was crying after this.
Aw.
It was like, I need to be seen, and I need to be heard, and I need to be understood. And I was like, okay. And basically, I was like, what does that mean? And the message to me that I received was, I'm protecting you from your capabilities and the truth. And I was like, okay.
And what does that mean?
And I just kept going, sitting with it. And I just held it. I can just remember holding it and like rocking it.
At any time, did your body feel like it wanted to run?
Not when I was
Wow,
in
okay.
this like curious.
Because those are pretty
introspective-
strong emotions coming
Yeah,
up.
yeah, but I did feel tears like pouring down my face when I was just like rocking this fear, whatever, all the emotions, and then I just felt like, gosh, I feel like we just transformed our relationship.
So you were almost parenting the inner child.
Boom.
Yeah.
Where's in the subconscious? Subconscious is linked to our inner child and all of our trauma.
Inner child
Inner
work
trauma.
is so crucial and so important to really be able to have a relationship with those emotions. Reparent yourself to be able to tell yourself those emotions are okay. They're not scary.
Yeah.
They will pass. And emotions are super temporary. I think that's what people don't realize. They start feeling an emotion and they think it's never going to end.
I went, and tell
They're
me if this
temporary.
is true, because you know the house. I went to a thing last week, and it was on motivation, and there were a lot of speakers there. And the one person that was speaking said that your body, when it's feeling emotions, it takes a physiological change on you for 5 minutes. That's what
it.
our body
It's
allows
temporary.
is 5 minutes. It then becomes a choice after that for us to hold on to that. It's not our body anymore, or these natural things. It's us holding on to. Is that true? Is that okay?
Yeah, it's definitely a choice. And that's why I had that moment in my life where my subconscious like threw up all over the place because I had buried so many emotions. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, as an intellectual, I lived in my head. It was like from my heart up, okay, and just like nothing below that. And so I didn't spend a lot of time sitting with emotions that can feel uncomfortable,
Yep.
but that are sacred guides. Like, we're not designed to feel uncomfortable emotions because we're here to suffer, okay?
Yeah.
We're designed to feel uncomfortable emotions because they're there to give us sacred wisdom.
To grow.
Our evolution.
Yes.
Mhm.
And it's really about the relationship we cultivate. Like, I don't know, there are people that are enlightened gurus and they're like, if you think that I don't feel
Oh, they're
judgment or
human.
shame
Yeah.
or guilt,
We think they don't, right?
no,
That they're
it's-
untouchable.
That's not what that means, right?
Yeah.
It's like, no, we came here for the human experience, and we say, our inner child. Like, if you asked a child to carry 700,000 emotions that you chose not to sit with, that child is going to be like, I am done.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I've had
So
enough.
true.
Yeah.
Right? Or our bodies. Like,
Yeah.
and that's where a lot of our chronic disease.
I was
or
gonna
chronic-
ask you about that.
100%.
It's I've read that before, and I think I'd watched something.
believe
It's
that.
linked to our emotional
Absolutely.
instability.
We
right?
have a physical body, we have an emotional body, we have a cognitive body, like the thoughts that can affect or invite our emotions. And then we also have our spiritual, bodies or our inner child or whatever, higher self, the universe, God, goddess, whatever you want to call it. Okay. And so if we're not cultivating a relationship with these different dimensions, of ourselves, then emotions can get stuck, in those different realms, if you will. Yeah.
So, what advice would you give a man or a woman right now going through a divorce or that's stuck in their relationship? What advice would you give them?
The most important, wow, this is a really good segue to this. The most important relationship we can cultivate is the relationship with ourselves.
Yes.
Period.
Yes.
that.
Oh, I agree.
That's what my divorce taught me.
Yeah.
My
Mhm.
divorce taught me how to love
Same.
myself.
Mhm.
That's what my divorce taught me. Like, my co-parent, I believe, was part of my life. I have beautiful children. I'm grateful. And that is part of what that relationship was there to teach me, how to love myself.
And I do feel when a relationship ends, sometimes because we feel that void, we want to rush into another one. That is a definite no. I think that's the time you need to sit
Liv,
with
did you
yourself.
rush into another one? Now we've gotten through the divorce. What's that after look like? What's your advice for the after?
Yeah, because
Okay.
that's the important part,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
Listen, at the end of the day, there's no wrong way to follow your intuition.
True. I agree.
Everything we invite in our lives is there to teach and guide us. Period.
Mhm.
Okay. And if I were chatting with my former self, who was like, I just want to convince myself that good people exist in the world, who then like got on an online dating site, I wouldn't necessarily recommend that. Again, I realize in retrospect, now that relationship and the relationship after that, both of them were there to teach me more about parts of me that still needed to heal.
Yep.
And so no wrong decision. Now I've spent a lot of time not being in a relationship, and I mean, I've learned about the inner work and the inner work of relationships, and I have a very different perspective of how I would walk into a relationship, through that. That took the evolution of everything that I've learned up until this point, and I'm grateful for it.
So Ashley and I, our last show, we had discussed soulmates. Soulmate meets us at where we're at, almost like what you're saying. So each person could be for our evolution. Now, again, season, a reason, or a lifetime. There are, the next person I meet could be a lifetime, or it could be a
My
season. We
person
don't
better
know.
be a lifetime. Don't bring me any more seasons or
So-
reasons. I'd like a lifetime.
How
please.
do you look at soulmates?
I got goosebumps. I feel that everybody in some way that crosses our path is of there. If we imagine this, there's 8 billion-ish people in the world, and we're only going to cross paths with X number of those people.
Wow, that is crazy.
Yeah, isn't
Right?
it?
Think
Yeah,
about it like
yeah.
that.
Right.
The world's huge, but yet the world's so small. I feel like
Yeah, for sure.
we're all interconnected.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So that is by design. And every one of those individuals in some way, I believe every neighbor can be our teacher. Every neighbor. Like the inner work of relationships isn't just about amorous relationships. It's with our relationships. If we're a thread of divinity that's intersecting body, heart, and mind of all beings in the environment that sustains and supports us, we could be soulmates, right? Like you're a soulmate, right? Like we must have made, I have to believe, some kind of an agreement at some point that like, hey, whether this is 5 minutes or 13 years or whatever, like we're here for each other.
Well, you're still saying goodbye, whether through death, divorce, breakup, part of the soul's evolution.
Yes, and that's a really, really healthy, perspective, because if we continue to entertain relationships with, individuals that are not feeling in alignment with our highest thrive, that is a disservice to ourselves and our soul's evolution. And so not every person, as that was a really hard lesson for me to learn too. Not every work environment, not every person is there for our lifetime. And letting go, right? Non-attachment to that could be shedding the greatest thing that we've ever seen that surpasses our wildest dreams and expectations. But it's not going to be, there's not going to be any room for that if we continue to cling to something that's familiar, for example.
Again, it's trusting God, you're surrendering, really having that trust.
Ooh, surrendering. Ooh, I love that word.
Yeah.
Yes, because
Surrender
if
and curiosity. Those are going to be our words
Yeah.
for the day.
yes.
I gotta, because I feel like so many people are gonna be walking around calling their people co-parents now.
Oh, yeah, you're stuck on this.
I gotta know, because I'm always like, oh,
The
my ex.
co-pay.
I love this. Yes.
Oh, Jenny. Because I'm like, my ex, my children's father.
Right.
You read.
Yes, down.
And I caught this the last time we were all hanging out, and you kept saying, I'm like, I wonder how she does that. What?
And she says it's so non-attached, too.
Yeah.
If you think.
the reasoning behind.
So it's intentional.
Okay.
Because another thing that's really, I think important for us is that every word that we speak to ourselves inwardly and every word we speak externally that's creating, our circumstances.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I choose in all instances to try to do my best to speak the truth. And like my co-parent we're co-parents for for as long, we have these children together.
Right.
And I couldn't have done a lot of the things I've done, like all the traveling I did this summer, if I didn't have a co-parent, to be, there for our children, while I was in other countries. And so that's just the truest expression of what I feel our relationship is. And honestly, we make better co-parents than we ever made. My daughter, she's like, I don't even understand how you two were ever in a relationship together. And I was like, I was a different person. And I will say one other thing. I watched my daughter, who's now, oh my gosh, almost 16, dating other people. And I'm like, I am like floored and in awe of just like the woman that she is and how she handles herself and conducts herself in relationships.
Having a mom like you.
Yeah. Yeah. That's why it's important to me.
And she's blessed to have you. You're a wonderful example to her.
I really appreciate you saying that.
You are.
And that's what I really wish to convey, to this audience. Like the best service that we can ever do is the relationship that we have with ourselves. And I promise you that what we model through that is what we will invite into our external circumstances.
So when I was going through my divorce, I had written a book. It's called Connecting Within, and it's a mother's journey to balance, peace, and joy. And it's because my divorce taught me how to really connect within myself and how to really love myself and take time for myself, especially. So this book, Connecting Within, is for new moms because sometimes it's so hard to find the balance in your life. We are taught sometimes to put our kids before ourselves.
Yes.
Granted, my kids are my top priority. However, if we neglect ourselves and we are not taking
You're not
that
being the
time
best.
to fill our cup, how are we really going to parent our children? How are we going to do what's best, right?
Yeah.
So, Connecting Within, meditations at the end of each chapter. It's exactly what we're talking about. The relationship with ourselves has to be the most important one. And then our kids are always following us. Like Ashley said, they're really looking. They're watching more than what we're saying. I could tell my kids a plethora of things, but I feel they're watching me.
Our actions speak much louder than our words.
They do.
Right.
And what I teach my kids is to also watch people's actions because I also feel in relationships, when we meet someone, when we're dating, it's the act, but it's the actions that are really going to tell you where the character lies in a person.
Well, yeah, because it's like you said, we can say things. It's a lot harder to make yourself change your actions, right? Like it just comes out. We're inherently who we are, and we just kind of
That's
do
exactly
things.
right.
And that's a lot harder to hide than
Or to
than your
change.
words. Staying changing them for so long, if you're changing them in a way
That's
to not
not
be
you.
real, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not
Yes.
you. Clarify that. 'Cause
Yeah.
change is good.
Change is great.
Do the actions align with the words?
Yes.
Period.
I love that.
Yeah.
So, to wrap this up, grounding. Somebody that is going through a divorce or in a relationship right now that might feel stifling, that zaps a lot of your energy. It's exhausting. The advice I would give, rest up, take care of yourself, connect within. What advice would you give for the grounding, for the really to get through this rough period of time? Especially if you have the courts involved. Some people, I know they're going through custody, courts. That's a lot of stress,
Yeah,
a lot of
that's
anxiety. It's
kind of-
ugly. It's
yeah.
messy. It's scary.
Do not compromise. Be unapologetic with
Love
Here we
it.
are.
Yeah, unapologetic with carving out time for you to tune in to yourself, whether that means in whatever way feels most aligned, taking walks in nature, meditation, yoga, breath work, playing music. Be uncompromising. Be uncompromising about being unapologetically with yourself. Because again, that's what you'll invite into your external environment.
I
Right?
love that.
Yeah.
You too. That's perfect.
Life will ask you to be born again and again. Each time you'll be asked to loosen your grip on the people, places, and versions of yourself that cannot walk with you into what's next. It won't always feel like growth. Sometimes it will feel like loss, like endings you weren't ready for, like doors closing before you knew where else to go. But reinvention doesn't wait for your permission. It arrives when the old world has finished serving its purpose and when you're brave enough to let go. You'll see that what felt like breaking apart was really the ground clearing. So you could rise again and again into the season that holds the fullest expression of your life. I don't know who wrote that, but I thought it was beautiful.
Yeah, absolutely.
On that note, thank you, Liv.
Thank you,
guys.
Liv. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
If you have a story you'd like to share, or if there's a specific topic you'd like us to cover on the podcast, we'd love to hear your ideas.
Get in touch with us through email or our social media pages. Links below.